Just to understand in a simple way, if you want to borrow a loan, okay, என்ன நம்பி யாருன்னா loan தருவா? Definitely this question will be arise, right? The person who is lending the loan, whoever it is, an individual or a bank or any financial institution, whatever it is, in general parlance, need not discuss with respect to company, in general parlance. The first question will be raised with respect to repayment. How the amount will be repaid. Bad debt side of how the amount will be repaid. So, உங்களை நம்பி கடங்க தர மாட்டாங்க. ஆனா உங்ககிட்ட சொத்து இருக்கும்ல, ப்ராப்பர்ட்டி, அதை நம்பி கடன் தருவாங்க. Property means what? In any way, if you talk about pledge, what do you mean by property is movable. Okay. If the loan is in the form of mortgage, the property here is which you create security, right? The property here is any immovable property. Okay. The same concept applies here for charges also, which means you say this as charge creation. Okay. When we talk about capital, we say two capital, one is equity and one is equity and debt capital. Okay. When we talk about capital, equity includes preference in most of the cases. That's why we say equity and preference put together. So equity and preference put together, and another one is debt capital. Okay. When we say about debt capital falls under which item of the balance sheet? Under borrowings. Equity share capital இருந்தாலும் சரி, preference share capital இருந்தாலும் சரி, balance sheetல வந்து liability side first item போடுவீங்க, share capital clause போடுவீங்க. That is share capital item. Whereas if you go for borrowings, long-term borrowings, we talk about debentures, deposits, other loans, etc., etc. Okay. So when it happens to be a borrowing, the lender will definitely wants to know how he will get the money back. Okay. He will see your business. Business about okay, this business is profit making business. அதனால வந்து கட்டமா ரிலே பண்ணலாம். So the projected balance sheet will be given. Usually when we go for loan thing and all, getting the loan, we go for 3 years projected balance sheet. Okay. 3 வருஷத்துக்கு வந்து projected balance sheet தரும். Company being an artificial person, we cannot ask the company's color, correct? தலையை வச்சு அடமானம் வச்சுனா அந்த டைலாக் எல்லாம் கம்பெனிக்கு செட் ஆகும், நம்மளுக்கே செட் ஆகல, கம்பெனிக்கு செட் ஆகாது. So automatically what happens is company has to create security. That is what in general terms we call it as charge creation, which is creating collateral security. What do you mean by collateral security is in case of non-repayment, they will attach the loan. Okay. When we talk about pledge, it has a specific meaning on movable. When we talk about mortgage, we have specific meaning on immovable. But whereas if we talk about charges, each and everything will be considered. Likewise, which will be considered? You're all account students, so definitely you know what are assets. How you define an asset? You use it for more than a year. So it has so many definitions: tangible, intangible, in any form. Everything can be created as security. Even the work in progress can be created as security. Even the raw materials which you're stocking in the godown can be created as security. It has a very wider meaning. எது செக்யூரிட்டி கிரியேட் பண்ண முடியாதுன்னா டே டு டே எக்ஸ்பென்சஸ் ரிலேட்டடா இருக்குல்ல, that asset like that cannot be created as security. Okay. So we'll go for the introduction part. It's nothing but a right created by the company to the creditor who extended financial assistance. Please highlight this is not a transfer. It's not a transfer. It's not a transfer. Okay, transfer ஆனது ஓனர்ஷிப் ரைட்ஸ் இல்ல, ஓனர்ஷிப் ரைட்ஸ் மாறுறது இல்லை. Okay, in case repayment இல்லனா பண்ண முடியலனா due date வந்து, then at that time it will be freezed. Okay. It's a security created. So when a security is created, you call that loan as secured loans. So probably you know secured creditor, unsecured creditor. If the loan is secured, then the creditor will be called as a secured creditor. Okay. You can be attaching a security for debentures or other borrowings. For what purpose? Only for repayment of debt. Debt includes both principal and interest. It includes mortgage also. When you mean by the term debt, you mean both existing debt and also future debt. And it's the legal right of the creditor only. It's not the absolute or special right. Because the property is not transferred, right? Or attachment இருக்கு அவ்வளவுதான். That's why we say the charge is attached. The security is created. There is nothing called as transfer here. So we call this just as a legal right. Enforced only if terms and conditions of the loan are not met. இல்லைன்னா enforceability வராது. and which can be done sometimes by the order of the. It gets priority to secured loans on waterfall arrangement. What do you mean by waterfall arrangement? Step-by-step arrangement. What do you mean by waterfall arrangement? During the liquidation, the liquidator will come liquidate all the properties, which is the asset. Then he'll go for paying the liabilities. Liabilities pay பண்ணும்போது முதல்ல statutory dues and all will be covered. What do you mean by statutory dues? Means, for example, wages, bonus, gratuity, which is as per the statute you have to cover. Paying income tax, employee side paying all the salary dues and all. Employee side welfare benefits, everything will be done. To the government side, all the tax are paid and liquidator fees will be included. After that, they'll go for secured creditors. After that, they'll go for unsecured creditors. After that, preference shareholders. After that, if there is surplus, need not be surplus. Sometimes there will be a shortage, whatever it is. Whatever it is spending, it will be given to the equity shareholders. So at last, they will be coming. Who? Equity shareholders. Because the preference shareholders are preferred before the equity shareholders, they are called as preference shareholders. And also on the basis of dividend, because definitely they'll get dividend. It's a charge on profit. Okay. For equity shareholders, dividend is appropriation of profit. For preference shareholders, dividend is charge on profits. Okay. So if the charge is created, then that person, the lender, will get the priority over the unsecured loans on waterfall arrangement basis. So we'll go with the Act. Statutory or the regulatory provisions will be following Companies Act 2013. Apart from that, we'll follow registration of charges rules, because when the company creates charges, it has to definitely mandatory register. Okay. நீங்க MCA data, master data ல போய் பாத்தீங்கன்னா, it will be giving all the charge creation data and all for a company. And when you go for referring companies, rules of officers and fees rules, okay, in the form of எவ்வளவு fees இருக்கும் இல்லையா? So you follow rule 12. And there is something called as SESI. So SESI records சொல்லுவாங்க. So that's for secured creditor with central registry. There is a central registry maintained by the government. You have to register over there. So registration of charges under SESI Act. Okay, Securitization Act. We'll go for legislative intent from the Companies Act. It follows from Section 77. It's a protection to the lender. நிம்மதியா தூங்குவாரு பணம் கொடுத்தவர். Okay, it's a protection to the lender. And please highlight this has to be made public, because everybody should know what is the encumbrance on the property. இப்போ நீங்க ஒரு ப்ராப்பர்ட்டி வாங்குறீங்க, பாப்பீங்க இல்லையா, ஈஸி போட்டு யார் யாருக்கு ட்ரான்ஸ்ஃபர் ஆயிருக்கு, என்ன டெட்ஸ் இருக்கு, எல்லாமே likewise it will be properly done. So that's why we need to make it public. Okay. This is done for twofold purpose. One is to prevent company to borrow to prevent loan for the company to borrow the same assets, and also to provide clear information to the lender. The company is having a BMW car. Okay, myself A. Okay, myself A. company BMW. Company the artificial person ஆச்சு. கம்பெனியோட CEO இருக்கார்ல, சின்ன ஆளா அவர் போறதுக்கு வரதுக்கு வேணும். அவர் வீடு எங்க தெரியுமா இருக்கும்? 3வது பில்டிங்ல. கெத்தா தானே வந்து இறங்கணும். Okay. See, myself A, I am the first creditor. I am attaching this property for the car, BMW car. For how much? 70 lakhs. There is another one person, yourself, let me name it as B. You are also lending the loan to the company. Company என்ன சொல்றாங்க, எனக்கு ஒரு BMW car. Company சொல்றோம், company management. Management says the company owns a BMW car. ஓ அப்படியா, 1.5 கோடி ரூபாய் லோன் தரேன் அப்படின்னா நான் என்ன ஆனேன்? First preference is given to me, because as per the date, I am the first lender. Okay, sometimes we do this pari passu also. But what happens is, the car's value is just 1.25 lakhs and it's a depreciable asset. The car's value is just 1.25 lakhs. Now on the 1.25 crores, sorry. Now on the loan lent பண்ணிருக்கிறது எவ்வளோ? 70 lakhs. Now he is asking for, now you are asking, lending the loan for 1.5 crores. எங்கேயும் இடிக்குது, எல்லாமே இடிக்குது. See, what happens is, probably either B is cheated or A is cheated. And company தெளிவா இருக்குன்னு அர்த்தம். இது இருக்கக்கூடாது. After all, whose money is this? Outsider's money. With the help of outsider's money, you are trying to do your business, you are trying to expand your business. So this should not be done. A should be protected, B should be protected. If A's charge is registered, I have lended the money, my charge is registered. அப்படின்னா என்ன ஆகும்? The BMW car மேல registration இருக்கும். Again, you can tell me, if B is not registering the charge, how B will know? A record is made public, right? See, we have this point. A's record is made public, right? அப்ப B வந்து check பண்ணி தானே கொடுத்துருக்கணும். Okay, so this has to be done. So probably car's worth is 1.25 crores. First, A has lended a loan and created security for 70 lakhs. And the present value of the car, for example, it is 1 crore. Okay. What's the difference between here? 30 lakhs. Up to 30 lakhs, the person B can attach the property, not lending. Lending எவ்வளவு வேணா பண்ணிட்டோம். Attach எவ்வளவு பண்றோம்? 30 lakhs. பாருங்களேன், நான் உங்களுக்கு 1 கோடி ரூபாய் கொடுத்து 30 லட்சம் ரூபாய்க்கு சார்ஜ் கிரியேட் பண்ணுவேன். I want the charge creation on the whole amount. Okay, 1 ரூபாய் குறைஞ்சாலும் தூங்க மாட்டேன். 70 லட்சம் ரூபாய் குறைஞ்சாலும். Okay, this will be the problem. So it will be maintained in the central registry called as SESI. Okay, we can highlight this word SESI. SESI stands for Central Registry of Securitization, Asset Reconstruction and Security of India. The record is named as SESI. The nature of SESI is single and centralized registry for equitable mortgages, which means mortgage on single property. Actually, so many types of mortgages are there. Sometimes we say equitable mortgage, sometimes we say mortgage on sale. What do you mean by mortgage on sale? Means, for example, I have a property, I'm mortgaging this property to you. Okay, which means you are lending the loan and attaching this one. If it is a mortgage and mortgage on sale, everything na property will sale panni. Please try to understand. This is mortgage on sale. Mortgage on sale. I will be selling the property, but this will be called as mortgage only. This will not be called as sale. Do you know when it will be called as sale? If not, repeat. நான் ஏ ரீபே பண்ணிருக்கணும்ல, the due dateல ரீபே பண்ணிருக்கணும்ல, due date வந்துச்சு ரீபே பண்ணல, it is considered as sale. See, what do you know about hire purchase? I will take the property, it's considered as hire. Till a particular installment, I'll be using the property and I'll be giving as hiring charges. If I'm satisfied with the property or other conditions are met, probably after 3 months or 4 months, it will be considered as purchase. Purchase if you pay பண்ணதெல்லாம் higher charges சொல்ல மாட்டோம், என்ன சொல்லுவோம்? Installment சொல்லிடும். Repayment of the main amount. Likewise, here, for some 3 years or 10 years or whatever it is, the amount is being lended means I'll be paying the interest amount and principal amount, everything. Whose property will be this one? If it is mortgage on sale, it will be B's property. Because how it's considered? Mortgage on sale. அதனால B வந்து இது என்னோட ப்ராப்பர்ட்டி தான், நான் சேல் பண்ணிக்கலாம்னா பண்ண முடியாது. Because it's mortgage on sale. Who's the real owner? A. But because of this process, B is now looking like a owner. If the due date is over, then B need not go for asking A for the property and all. B can take the property and go because it becomes B's property. Higher purchase மாதிரி இது யாரோட ப்ராப்பர்ட்டியா மாறிடும்? B ஓட ப்ராப்பர்ட்டியா மாறிடும். So this can be done. We have this type of a mortgage. We have some other mortgage called as mortgage on title deeds. The bankல எல்லாம் அடகு வைக்கிறது என்ன பண்ணுவீங்க? You keep the document. It's about mortgage on title deeds. Okay, so we have so many things. So this is meant for equitable mortgages. That is mortgage on single property. Okay. So for this, you have to maintain the SESI record. See, now we came to know this online registration called as land registry. News. There's one app where you can sit in one place, you can go for video recording and you can register your land. முன்னாடியெல்லாம் land register பண்ணனும்னா you have to go to the register office to that location, to that jurisdiction and you have to get it registered. இப்போ அந்த மாதிரி எல்லாம் இல்ல. அந்த வீடியோல போயிட்டு நீங்க buyer and seller வந்து அந்த வீடியோல it will be recorded or some person will be there. நான் டீடைலா பார்க்கலாம். There the video recordings will be done and the land will be registered in your name. Easy எல்லாம் பார்த்துட்டு எல்லாமே பண்ணுவீங்க. That's recently introduced. I think 15th September. I think so. Definition of charge is very important one. Follows from clause 16. It's an interest or a lien created on company's property, assets or undertakings. For what purpose? For security purpose and includes mortgage also. Very, very important one. Let me go for the first line. An interest or lien. What do you mean by lien? Holding up rights. Holding up rights. What do you mean by lien? Is holding up rights. இன்னும் பர்டிகுலரா எக்ஸாக்டா சொல்லணும்னா லீகலா லா ஸ்டூடெண்டா நீங்க எழுதணும்னா you can use this word vesting rights. Vesting the holding. The property vests on you. அப்படின்னா என்ன அர்த்தம்? You have the rights to hold the property. Okay. An interest or lien created on what? Company's property or assets or undertakings. When we say company, you can please understand the company includes holding company and subsidiary company also. The holding company is borrowing the loan. Okay. Who can give the security? Subsidiary company can give the security. Guarantee கொடுக்கிறது. அப்படின்னா the charge can be created on subsidiary company's property. That can be done. Okay. It includes mortgage also because we have a different meaning for mortgage in general parlance. But here, when we go for charges under the Companies Act, we say charges includes mortgage, pledge, everything. Okay, chinna gundu usi adana properties on included. Okay, essential features. See, when we say charges means is nothing but follows from the essentials of Indian Contract Act. Okay, so minimum two parties should be there. One party will be called as the. Please try to recall the provisions of Indian Contract Act. If not, don't worry. There will be two parties. One party will be called as the offerer. Another party will be called as the acceptor. Here, it's a specific creation. So that's why we call it as charge creator and charge holder. Who's creating the charge? He's called as a charge creator. Who's holding the charge? He'll be called as a charge holder. What is the subject matter? It can be the current asset or future assets. That's why we say W work in progress, future assets. Okay. And intention, it should be in written. It is not considered oral. And especially when we talk about companies that it will be written, not only written, register also. Record the point on it's okay. So charges and section 100 of the Property Act. So because the charges are including mortgages also, we have to refer Transfer of Property Act section 100. Here all the provisions relating to mortgage will be applicable. Transfer of Property Act வந்து என்னென்ன procedures என்னென்ன சொல்லிருக்காங்களோ அதெல்லாமே இங்கேயும் applicable ன்ட்டாங்க. When you go for referring 1956 Act, Companies Act, only 9 type were required for registration, whereas now it covers any interest or lien created for securities, everything is covered. எல்லாமே covered. Okay. When you say interest, it's a wider term. Okay, wider term. When you have the legal share over the property or right or title or interest or privileges or any powers or even immunity, charge creation is somewhat like immunity, correct? நீங்க சேல் பண்ண முடியாது. என்கிட்ட வந்து சார்ஜ் கிரியேட் பண்ணிட்டு லோன் என்கிட்ட வாங்கி சார்ஜ் கிரியேட் பண்ணிட்டு செக்யூரிடைஸ் பண்ணிட்டு நீங்க என்ன பண்ண முடியாது, யாருக்கும் வெளியில சேல் பண்ண முடியாது, பிகாஸ் ஐம் ஹோல்டிங் தட் immunity. Okay, so it can be that. So that's what the interest is defined. And lien is a legal right or interest. And what is that? Holding right, right to. Why charges created? Financial institutions may lend only for safe funds. Okay, and security is created for the lender. What they do is they go for executing loan agreements, hypothecation documents. Yes, even hypothecation is one mode of borrowing and lending. Mortgage deeds and other cases. Yes, we need a concern. Please highlight this point. In case you are giving, in case you are going for second charge, as we were discussing this BMW example. Okay, A holds for 70 lakhs. B holds for some 20 or 25 lakhs or something like that. A's charge is registered. Now we are going for B's charge. A's charge is registered first. We call it as first charge. Okay. Then who comes for the same property? Who comes? B comes. So B charge will be considered as second charge. But A should give the concern whether that can be created. இப்போ சொல்லுங்க, நீங்க A. The BMW worth was when created is 1.5 crores. இப்போ வந்து 1.25 crores. Probably the charge is still valid for another 10 years. Will you give the concern for B? எவ்வளவு டிஃபரன்ஸ் இருக்கு? இப்போ 1.24 crores, இன்னும் 10 years கழிச்சு இன்னும் 1 crore ஆயிடலாம். காரோட மதிப்பெல்லாம் சொல்ல முடியாது, ஸ்லாஷா 50% இறங்கும். 70 lakhs ரொம்ப கம்மி. நானும் அந்த கொடுக்க மாட்டேன் கன்சர்ன், கரெக்டா? So A, who's A in this case? First charge holder. He has to give or he has the right to reject also for creating the second charge in favor of a different creditor. Please highlight. Please highlight. Why we call here as different creditor? In case this is not A, this is not B, this is A itself. எனக்கு இன்னும் 20 லட்ச ரூபாய் வேணுங்க, அதே ப்ராப்பர்ட்டி மேல சார்ஜோட டேர்ம்ஸ் கூட மாத்திப்போம் பண்ணிக்கலாம். ஓகே, to give more support for understanding, let me, instead of going BMW, let me talk about a land which is worth how much? 1.25 crores. இப்போ 1.25 crores எவ்வளவு கிரியேட் பண்ணிருக்காங்க சார்ஜ்? 70 lakhs. எனக்கு பணம் வேணும் as a company. I'm approaching you. Who's you? The first charge holder. I'm approaching you. You yourself is interested for creating the extension of charge. This will not be called a second charge. Second charge is another person. Extension of charge can be done. Okay. If you are going for second charge means obviously you have to get the permission from the first charge holder. If he is giving assent, okay, then fine. If he is rejecting, no, we cannot do it. Okay. Usually ஒரே ப்ராப்பர்ட்டி மேல 2-3 கிரெடிட்டர்ஸ் வர மாட்டாங்க. ஏதாவது ப்ராப்ளம் ஆச்சு லேட்டர் பீரியட்ல வந்து லிக்விடேஷன்ல வந்து டிவிஷன் ப்ராப்ளம் ஆயிடும். செக்ரிகேட் அப்ரோப்ரியேட் பண்ணும்ல அசெட், வேல்யூ சரியா போகலன்னா இது விஜய் மல்லையாவோட அசட்ஸ் எல்லாம் வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா பயங்கர லோ லேட் எல்லாம் போச்சுருந்தாங்க. ஃபிளைட் எல்லாம் வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா சார்ட்டர் ஃபிளைட் எல்லாம் வச்சிருந்தாரு. இட் வாஸ் ஜஸ்ட் கோயிங் ஃபார் சம் 10 crores என்னமோ, ரொம்ப கம்மியா போச்சுருந்தாங்க. அவரோட ஹை அண்ட் கார்ஸ் எல்லாமே பாத்தீங்கன்னா இட் வாஸ் ஜஸ்ட் கோயிங் ஃபார் சம் 20-25 lakhs and all. BMW, almost all the cars above 1 crore was just costed for 25 lakhs to 30 lakhs. ஏன்னா நேம் இல்லல்ல, யாரோட கார்? விஜய். விஜய் இல்ல. அதே மாதிரி பேங்க்ல ஜப்தி பண்ணுவாங்கல்ல, அந்த ப்ராப்பர்ட்டி எல்லாம் ஒன்றும் பெருசா ரேட் போகாது, லேண்ட் ரேட்டுக்கு இருக்கும். நிறைய பேர் வாங்க மாட்டாங்க. அதே மாதிரி டூ வீலர்ஸ், ஆக்சிடென்ட் ஆன டூ வீலர்ஸ் வாங்க மாட்டாங்க. they'll be emotionally attached. ஸோ அந்த மாதிரி இருக்கும்போது யூஸ்வலா வந்து they will not go for it. Okay. So usually what we do here is insist on registration. And now it's made mandatory. Registerable charges, an indicative list is here. Can you please go through? It's an indicative list. It's not given in the act. So சில cases interpretation எல்லாம் போகுதுல்ல. What we say, it's created on company's property, assets and undertaking. That's why everything is considered. Indicative list தான். இதுதான் இருக்கணும்னு அவசியம். Okay, can you please go through? They have taken this company Mahendra Holidays and Resorts Private Limited from the MCA master data. See, whenever you go for incorporating a company, all the data, the details of the company, MOA, everything is taken to the record and is ready for public inspection. Even the directors, we call it a signatory details and director details, the CEO details, the company secretary details, everything is taken to the record. Even the charges are taken to the public documents. Okay. So if you go for this master data, you can find, see, you will find 3 columns. One is master data, one is index of charges. That's the heading we are discussing for today. Directors or signatories detail. Okay. ஒரு ரெசல்யூஷன் பாஸ் பண்ணிருக்காங்க, அதுல யாரோ ஒருத்தர் சைன் பண்ணிருக்காரு, அவர் அந்த கம்பெனியோட டைரக்டரா உங்களுக்கு தெரியணும்னு you can go and check here. Okay, so master data. So usually the master data is basic information. உங்களை பத்தின CV, கரிக்குலம் விட்டு என்ன பண்ணுவீங்க, நேம் எக்ஸெட்ரா எக்ஸெட்ரா. ஏன்னா ஒரே ஒரு டிஃபரன்ஸ், மேரிட்டல் ஸ்டேட்டஸ் இருக்காது. ஓகே, ஒரு வாட்டி சொல்லி இந்த CV மாதிரி எல்லாமே இருக்கும் அப்படின்னு சொன்னோம்னா, மேரிட்டல் ஸ்டேட்டஸ் எஸ் ஆன மேரேஜ், ஐயோ அதெல்லாம் வராதுப்பா. SIN number. So SIN number, first it starts with L. It's visible, right? The font size is okay. So it starts with L, saying it's a listed company. Then the number will be there. It's a Maharashtra registration. Okay, ROC வந்து Maharashtra. So MH, then end the year of registration. Then LC is for the code, it will be given. So PLC, and the Bombay இதுக்காக போட்டு தருவாங்க. And 40575 is the main registration number. See, you can find it over here. Okay. The company is Mahendra Holidays and Resorts India Limited. So listed company definitely is not going to be a private company. It's going to be a public company. Public company means you need not mention in that name. Private company you have to mention in the name. Well, yeah. Mail ID, registered address, address at which the books are to be maintained. See, the address is same. Books, records, everything where it has to be maintained. Usually at the register office. Can you have it some other place? Yes, you can have it. But you have to have the resolution passed. Okay. Then is it listed in stock exchanges? Yes. Category of company limited by shares. Subcategory non-government company. What class of company is this? Public active compliance இருக்கு. That is every year வந்து நாங்க ஆக்டிவா இருக்கோங்கிறதுக்காக ஒரு ஃபார்ம் ஃபைல் பண்ணணும். ஸோ ஆக்டிவ் கம்ப்ளைண்ட் கம்பெனின்னு இருக்கும். வாட் இஸ் ஆத்தரைஸ் கேபிட்டல் நீங்களே கவுண்ட் பண்ணிக்கோங்க, நம்பர் ஆஃப் ஜீரோஸ். வாட் இஸ் பெய்ட் அப் கேபிட்டல் நீங்களே கவுண்ட் பண்ணிக்கோங்க எவ்வளோ க்ரோஸ்ன்ட்டு. ஓகே, டேட் ஆஃப் லாஸ்ட் AGM 2025 ஜஸ்ட் நவ். ஓகே, 23rd July. Okay, date of balance sheet, the last financial reports. Company status active. Jurisdiction, it falls under Maharashtra. So Bombay, Mumbai, ROC. Then regional director, who's the respective person, R&D for Western region. Okay. So this is the master data where you have the basic details. If you go for index of charges, see, this company has created so much charge. The one we were discussing in the earlier page with respect to master data, in the 2 something இருக்குல்ல, எவ்வளோ பெரிய நம்பர், இதெல்லாமே வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா paid up capital, equity and preference put together both. Okay. இதே வந்து if you talk about long term debts or debt capital, it will not be reflected over here. Long term debts are not reflected. Index of charges, if you go, SRN number is created because your filing is a request number. Okay, service request number, SRN number is created, charge ID is created. Yes, this are all important. Probably இதுதான் நம்மளோட extension இருக்கும் pattern. So when you go for maintaining the record of the company, we have the register of members record. Likewise, we'll be creating a register of charges where everything has to be maintained by the company. And the form has to be filed to the register. Okay, the ROC file பண்ணணும். ROC file பண்ணும்போது இந்த டேட்டா எல்லாம் தர மாதிரி இருக்கும். Just இங்க வந்து highlighted தான் இருக்கு. It will be a very bulky form, like எல்லா டீடைல்ஸும் நீங்க ப்ரொவைட் பண்ணணும். So charge holder name, who has created the charge holder, charge, who has lent the loan, Access Bank. Okay, date of creation 2024. If there is any modification happened, what do you mean by modification? Is all the changes, variations, alterations means you have to mention here. Which means what? Even if you are making any alteration, a small change also, that has to be intimated to the RBC. Okay, that date will be mentioned, and date of satisfaction, the closure of loan. Which means what? Hereafter the security is not valid. Okay, and amount, for which amount? Okay, address, whether charge registered by other entity? No. If you charge registered by other entity, you have to mention that, and asset holder name also has to be mentioned only. Is it okay? See, to view the charges registered on SETSI website for this company, click on SETSI. If you click on, so I'm not getting much deviated. வருமான்னு தெரியல பாப்போம். Then director or signatory details. See, so many are directors here. If that person is a director, DIN number will be reflected. If that person is not a director, sorry, if the person is a director, definitely have a DIN number. That person may be a director in another company, but in my company is not a director. அப்படி இருந்துச்சுன்னா என்னது the PAN number. So the heading here will be DIN or PAN. The name, the designation as who, the category, who is that person. Professional போடுவாங்க. See this third person, Sangeeta Talwar. She is an independent director. It has to be properly represented. And when the person is appointed, the cessation date, signatory is. Signatory means what? Has the authority to sign. Okay. இதெல்லாமே இருக்கும்பா யூஸ்வலாவே இதெல்லாமே இருக்கும்பா so you can take any one company for a sample and you can test on your own check பண்ணி பாருங்க எந்த கம்பெனி வேணாலும் whether whichever company you test okay so let me continue shall I continue shall I take over so registerable charges is an indicator list probably it might be you're creating the charge for while issuing the debentures or deposits see, when we are talking about debentures, we are talking about charge creation over there. When we were talking about deposits, also we talked on this topic. Probably the trustees will be there and they'll be taking up the looking after the property and all. Please highlight the second one. You can create a charge on uncalled share capital also. See, so far we were by the definition of charge creation. So far we were saying the charge is created on the company's assets, properties, or undertakings. But here they say it can be created on uncalled share capital. Share capital, if called, it becomes liability for the company. Clear? If not called, it is somewhat treated as asset. And even on call money, called but unpaid. See, if it is paid means it becomes liability for the company. Receive money, it becomes liability for the company. If it is unpaid means it is still yet to be received. Okay, liability வந்து எப்போ வரும் ரிசீவ் ஆனதான் liability வரும் ஓகே அப்போ ரிசீவ் ஆகுமானே தெரியல மேம் எப்படி நீங்க சார்ஜ் கிரியேட் பண்ணுவீங்கன்னா நீங்க ப்ராமிஸ் பண்ணிருக்கீங்கல்ல என்னன்னு ப்ராமிஸ் பண்ணிருக்கீங்க அன்பெய்டு வேல்யூக்கு நீங்க லைபிள்னு ப்ராமிஸ் பண்ணி அப்போ அந்த லைபிலிட்டியை நான் ரைட்டா யூஸ் பண்ணிப்பேன் ஓகே அது அசெட்டா யூஸ் பண்ணிப்பேன் on tangible or intangible or movable or immovable on any book that laying on subfreight it can be floating charge. What do you mean by floating charges? If you are creating a charge on raw material or work in progress or stock in trade, obviously you will create a charge called as floating charge. This is created on the properties or assets which will be moving, which will not be static in the company. I have a machinery, I have a building. Okay, I have a land. Building and land put together may be taken. Tell me. I create a charge on the building along with the land. You call this as two types of charges are there. One is fixed charge and another is floating charge. If I am creating a charge on the building along with the land, you call this as sorry, fixed okay. If you are creating a charge on the machinery, fixed எனக்கு அது பேனெல்லாம் எனக்கு அசத்தான்ப்பா okay. Now I change the situation. This company is selling machinery. இப்போ என்ன create பண்ணுவீங்க you cannot say it's a fixed because it's not an asset. Okay, what charge you have to create? Floating charge. Okay. Fixed charge is a static one. எப்படி மேம் ஸ்டாட்டிக் கொஞ்ச நாள் கழிச்சு என்னோட மிஷினரி ஓன் அவுட் ஆயிடுச்சுன்னா டெப்ரிஷியேட் ஆயிடுச்சுன்னா பட் ஸ்டில் வி ஹேவ் த லைஃப் இல்ல ஒரு 5 years 10 years அதை வச்சு தான் இன்வெஸ்ட் பண்ணிருக்கீங்க ஸோ யூ நோ த லைஃப் whereas if you go for floating charge it's somewhat a slight different concept. Probably I am making sugar. Mine is a sugar company. Okay. சுகர் எவ்வளவு பண்றேன் 1 கிலோ 2 கிலோ 5 கிலோ 10 கிலோ இல்ல டன் கணக்குல சுகர் நைட் அண்ட் டே ஓடும் okay thousands and thousands of ton அதுவரை நான் charge create பண்ணலாமா yes the charge can be created and this charge will be called as a floating charge okay but what happens is all the sugars manufactured or produced is kept in the godown which means what stocked which means what? It's a stock in trade. It's being stocked. Okay. And probably if you go in terms of value of money, not in weight, in terms of value of money, I can say this is around some every time, whenever you go or roll over the stock, definitely you'll be holding some 20 crores in value. அப்படின்னா என்னது ஸ்டாக் வரும் வெளியே போகும் ஸ்டாக் வரும் வெளில போகும் எப்போ இருக்கும் அந்த அந்த ஸ்டாக் குடோன்ல எவ்வளவு இருக்கும் எப்பவுமே 20 crores இருக்கும் then I can create a charge on this stock in trade on the sugar for how much up to 20 crores ஆனா எறும்பு வராம இருக்கணும் ஓகே என்ன பண்றது see what we say here why it is called here as floating means it's not static floating moving then one person A comes who is a buyer. Okay, probably for convenience sake, let me have this as 10,000 tons in stock. Okay. A buyer A comes. He asks for 1,000 tons. He's buying. He buys and goes away. How much is stock left over here? This 20 crores is reduced. Another usually 20 crores panamata. So let me understand that charge is created for 15 crores. Once this 1,000 ton is reduced means reduced to 9,000 now, the remaining 1,000 will be filled. ஏன்னா அப்படிதான் இருக்கும் ஸ்டாக் அது ஓடிட்டே இருக்குல்ல கண்டினியூஸ் ப்ரொடக்ஷன் இருக்கும் ஓடிட்டே இருக்கும் now B comes ask for 5,000 tons again you have to check the value okay now the lender the creditor அவர் வந்து சக்கரெல்லாம் மெஷர் பண்ணிட்டு இருப்பாரு சக்கரையோ மிஷினரியோ லேண்டோ ப்ராப்பர்ட்டியோ மெஷர் பண்ண ஸ்டார்ட் பண்ண மெஷர் பண்ணுவாங்க ஓகே what he will do is he will check how much the transaction is done because it's a stock in trade how much the transaction is done how much will be always in stock not the same sugar is produced sent away bought sugar is produced bought ஒரு இடத்துல ஒரு ஸ்டாக்கிங் இருக்கும்ல ஒரு 5 crores valid sugar value of money 5 crores இல்ல 10 crores ஒரு ஸ்டாக் எப்பவுமே இருக்கும்ல that transaction will be mainly taken that transaction is that stock will be completely taken and charge will be created on that. So when the stock is sold for 20 crores, it need not be exactly 20 crores. They will see the complete movement, and every time when the movement happens, 5 crores stock is always there, means the charge can be created up to 5 crores. இதை ஏன் floating சொல்றோம் அதே சுகர் இருக்காது when the charge is created 10 years before now it's 10 years after அதே சுகர் இருக்காது but the charge is still valid. Okay, so we have two types of charges called as fixed charge and another one floating charge. Okay, when the due date comes and the repayment is not done, please pay note. When the due date comes, the repayment is not done, then obviously you can directly go and make the asset freezed. Which one? If it is fixed. நீங்க அவ்வளவுதான் அந்த ப்ராப்பர்ட்டி எடுத்துக்கலாம் means what you can block that you cannot make further sale and all that. Okay, whereas if it is floating you have to freeze it. How you freeze it? What do you mean by freezing? Okay, just take this activity. தண்ணி வந்து கையில எவ்வளவு நேரம் குடிச்சுப்பீங்க எவ்வளவு நேரம் குடிக்க முடியும் கொஞ்ச நேரம் குடிப்பேன் இதே வந்து ஐஸ் கியூப்ஸா ஃப்ரீசர்ல மாத்தி ஃப்ரீஸ் பண்ணியிருந்தா that's what freezing is making it static. Fix is already static, you need not worry, but what about floating? You have to make it static. So to apply this property for the repayment of the loan, first step you have to freeze it. That freezing process is what you call as crystallization of charges. இருக்கு அந்த content. Okay, what you call as crystallization of charges. Crystallize பண்ணணும், which means what you have to make it freezed. Freeze பண்ணுவாங்க எப்படி பண்ணுவாங்க ஒரு சீல் போட்டுருவோமா yes இருக்கலாம். Axis Bank is sending a letter notice saying that due date வந்துச்சியா நீ பே பண்ணல etc அதனால நாங்க block பண்றோம். Yes, there happened a case where some public financial institution என்ன பண்ணாங்கன்னா due date வந்துச்சுன்னு கூட சொன்னாங்க. It was like normal notice. Okay, but they have to give a notice which is giving a check like எப்படி notice வந்துச்சு we are appointing a receiver for it we have to repay the loan else we increase it and the line is a person is appointed and the asset was fixed. Okay, so that's about the 7th one. Then 8th, ship or share in a ship. 9th, charge or assignment on insurance policies also can be done, and pledge over the margin money like pledging of shares can be done. Okay, example, let me go for this example. Company A is a member of Company B. Company B supplied goods on credit to Company A through AOA. Lane is created on traders due for members. Yes, definitely I'm going to receive it, right? I'm a trading person. Let me go for kinds of charges. Nature of charge. You can call it as fixed charge or specific charge, where the company to give up its right to dispose on the property, which means once the charge is created, it's an asset, right? Once the charge is created, you cannot dispose the property, which means the charge holder gets priority over the subsequent transfers. So he gets a first priority. Okay. The property should be ascertained. What do you mean by fixed charge? It should be ascertained and definite, like land, building, plant, and machinery. See, need not be movable and tangible alone. It can be immovable. It can be movable. It can be tangible. It can be intangible also. Patent right. உங்க பேர்ல தானே இருக்கு, அப்ப starting தான். Okay. What about a dormant company? Can a dormant company create charges? Yes, it can create. When a dormant company intangible assets full can create. What happens when the charge is created? He gets a priority during winding up or liquidation. I place a star mark. I'll discuss later why I'm placing the star mark. If discuss discuss. Let me go for floating charge. The property is not specific, but usually happens in the ordinary course of business. That's why we call this as fluctuating type. And usually this follows with stock and trade. The security remains dormant until freezed or sterilized. You have to freeze it. Company has the right to deal over the assets. Please highlight. Please the company you can deal with assets until it takes the enforcement. And the company can sell mortgage lease. Benefits can sell mortgage lease, but you have to follow MOE. Okay? The creation of a floating charge leaves the company free to create a legal and equitable mortgage on the same property until the floating charge crystallizes. Probably let me go for an example. I'm a construction real estate builder. Okay. I have a land and I'm a developer, land developer. Construction. So I'm constructing a building. Okay. Here charge is created. Building a vippa. So as per the charge, it's a floating charge. But what I'm doing is I'm creating a floating charge on this. As per the Companies Act, I'm creating a security. But as per Transfer of Property Act, I can create a mortgage also. So what is the term related to mortgage? If it is an immovable asset. Asset என்னது என்னோட கம்பெனிக்கு வேற உங்களோட கம்பெனிக்கு வேறையா இருக்கலாம். But when we say immovable asset, for everybody is immovable, it follows the definition. Land immovable தானே, fish immovable. என்ன தலையாடுறீங்க இல்லன்ட்டு. Fish immovable immovable immovable. சரி, இன்னொரு கிளாஸ்ல பார்ப்போம். Fish is movable or immovable? You cannot say movable or immovable. You have to discuss whether it's movable or immovable. It's attached to a property. CA students, டக்குனு பதில் சொல்வீங்க நினைச்சேன். மார்க்கெட்ல இருந்தா மூவபிள், ஆத்துல குளத்துல சீல இருந்தா இம்மூவபிள். Okay, CMA students, movable and immovable, there is a lot of definition variation. ஒரு fish, fruits, மரத்துல இருந்து டைரக்டா பறிக்கிறீங்க. இம்மூவபிள் ப்ராப்பர்ட்டி எடுத்து நீங்க சாப்பிடுறீங்கன்னு அர்த்தம். இதே வந்து கீழே இருக்கிறது எடுக்கிறீங்க, மாங்காய் எல்லாம் அடிச்சு சாப்பிட்டா நல்லா இருக்கும் இல்லையா? சோ அந்த மாதிரி மாங்காய் அடிச்சு சாப்பிட்டீங்கன்னா இம்மூவபிள். இதே மாங்காய் வந்து ரோடு கடையில அந்த மாதிரி சாப்பிட்டீங்கன்னா it becomes movable because it's detached from the tree, detached from the earth. Okay. So when we talk about mortgage here, it can be created on the same property because the charge created is the floating charge. Land and building is not an asset for the company. That's another floating project construction than a company. Okay. Second, depending on the basis of the conditions, it can be pari passu. Pari passu means what? Same par, but prior consent is required. You know, the lender A has given the loan some 2 years back, and B is currently requiring for the loan. It will be ரெண்டுமே equal சொல்ல முடியும் because priority has to go for A than priority than நினைப்பாரு. So consent is required. Exclusive charge can be created. Yes, most of the companies do this one. Most of the lender do this one. They'll create exclusive charge. அப்படின்னா எனக்கு மட்டும் தான் the charge creation சொல்லுங்க பண்ணிப்பாங்க. Yes, you can go for creating further or second charges. Okay. Third, on the basis of registration. Actually, for the basis of registration, we have registered and unregistered, but law says it's mandated to register the charges. On the basis of country, yes, beautiful. It can be within India. The property may be within India or outside India. And basis on the nature of property, it can be tangible or intangible. Is it okay? Let me continue. Floating charge, yes, you have to go for crystallization. But when we go for crystallization, first point, liquidation has to be done. Okay. Second, business definitely floating charges somewhat related to the ordinary course of business. So definitely ceases to carry on the business. The charges becomes crystallized. Third, on happening of a specified event, obviously, pay panna mudiyala, etc. And fourth, this is what I was saying, you are appointing a receiver. Okay, appointing a receiver. So, debenture holders or creditor will take steps to enforce their security. Okay. Effect of crystallization. Yes, please make a note. Once the charges are crystallized, the floating charges crystallize, then only it becomes a fixed charge. Okay, that's the first point. It's quite important. The setting is quite important. First point. Second point, it has priority over any subsequent equitable charge. What do you mean by equitable charge? A pari passu. A has the right over the charges, B has the right over the charges. But when the floating charge is created and is being fixed, that is, it's being crystallized, means that person, that lender will get the priority over the subsequent equitable charge. Okay, and other unsecured creditors also. From a waterfall arrangement, first we'll go for statutory dues, then we'll go for secured creditors. Now we have to discuss in two angles. Secured fixed charge created, floating charge created. Fixed charge will get the first priority, floating charge will get the next priority. Okay. Preferential creditors, priority, and secured creditors get priority over the claims of debenture holders having floating charge. Okay. Postponement, this heading is also quite very important. Yes, even though the due date has occurred, it's about to crystallize the charge, but law says due to this reason, you have to go for postponing the crystallization process. The particular date la crystallize pananum charges. Okay, and that particular date has arrived. Let me go for the timeline. This particular date has arrived. But what law says is, under these specific circumstances, you cannot crystallize the charge, which means you have to postpone the crystallization process. Still you're unsecured now. Still you're unsecured now. In favor of the following persons, not for all, as per the law only have to follow, if they act before the crystallization to the security. Crystallization first priority. Looks like they are secured, but crystallization is not yet done now, still they are not secured. Only if you crystallize, it becomes fixed, then only it becomes secured. Okay. Landlord who distrains for rent. Rental building la இருக்கிறீங்க இது கட்டல ரெண்ட் கட்டல அவர் வந்து சீல் போட்டு போயிடுறாரு சீல் போட்டவருக்கு ஃபர்ஸ்ட் இதுவா உங்களுக்கா சீல் போட்ட இடத்துலதான் ஸ்டாக் இருக்கு அவருக்கு தான் ஃபர்ஸ்ட் ரைட்ஸ் ஓகேயா சீல் போட்ட உடனே நீங்க உடைக்கிறதுக்கு ரைட்ஸ் இல்ல எப்போ கிறிஸ்டலைஸ் பண்றதுக்கு முன்னாடி கிறிஸ்டலைஸ் பண்ணீங்கன்னா உங்களுக்கு தான் ரைட்ஸ் புரியுதா லாஜிக்கலா யோசிச்சாலே வந்துடும் Is it okay? Distrains for what? Rent. Distrains means what? He takes over the right. A creditor who obtains a garnishee order absolute. What do you mean by garnishee order? Means he will go to the court and he'll apply for suing for something and all. Probably the supplier is there. Okay, for example, supplier has supplied on credit basis. Obviously, as a buyer, you have to close that amount. Okay. And for that, floating charge is also created. Floating charge is created by another person. Supplier is another person. ஓகே இப்போ ஃப்ளோட்டிங் சார்ஜ் கிரியேட் பண்ண சார்ஜ் ஹோல்டருக்கு ரைட்ஸா சப்ளையருக்கு ரைட்ஸா அப்படின்னு பாத்தீங்கன்னா ஃப்ளோட்டிங் சார்ஜ் கிரியேட் பண்ணதுதான் ரைட்ஸ் பட் இவர் வந்து என்ன பண்ணிருக்காரு கோர்ட்ல போயிட்டு கார்னிஷி ஆர்டர்னு சொல்லிட்டு வாங்குவாங்க ஓகே இந்த இன்ஜங்ஷன் வாங்குற மாதிரி ரீபேமெண்ட் வரைக்கும் அதை யூஸ் பண்ணக்கூடாதுன்னு சொல்லுவோம் ஏன் ரா மெட்டீரியல் தானே யூஸ் பண்றேன் ப்ளீஸ் ரைட் அண்டர்ஸ்டாண்ட் திஸ் சப்ளையர் ஹேஸ் சப்ளைட் ரா மெட்டீரியல் திஸ் ரா மெட்டீரியல் ஹேஸ் கான் த்ரூ த மிஷின் சம் ப்ராசஸ் அண்ட் என்னவா வந்திருக்கு எனக்கு ஃபினிஷ்டு குட்ஸா வந்திருக்கு இவன் வந்து போயிட்டு நீ கிரெடிட்ல வாங்கின என்னோட ரா மெட்டீரியல் பணம் திருப்பி கொடு ரா மெட்டீரியல் திருப்பி கொடுன்னு கேட்க முடியாது புரியுதா ஏன்னா அவங்க கொடுத்த ரா மெட்டீரியல் அங்க இல்ல சோ வாட் ஹி வில் டூ இஸ் ஹி வில் கோ ஃபார் அட்டாக்கிங் த finished goods ஏன்னா ஏன் ரா மெட்டீரியல் வச்சுதான் நீ பண்ண ஹி வில் கோயிங் அட்டாக்கிங் த finished goods in this sense who is getting the first priority rights the supplier even though it's been charge created floating charge created அப்ப floating charge create பண்ணவருக்கு வந்து என்னது செகண்டரி பில் ஆனா இவர் எப்போ வந்து ஃப்ரீஸ் பண்ணணும் தட் இஸ் எப்போ வந்து கேட்கணும் கார்னிஷி ஆர்டர் வாங்கணும் பிஃபோர் கிறிஸ்டலைசேஷன் தட்ஸ் குவைட் இம்பார்ட்டன்ட் பிஃபோர் கிறிஸ்டலைஸ் ஏன்னா கிறிஸ்டலைஸ் பண்ணியாச்சுன்னா அவருக்கு தான் ரைட்ஸ் கிறிஸ்டலைஸ் மீன்ஸ் ஃபிக்ஸ்டு ஃப்ரீஸ்டு ஓகே செகண்ட் a judgment creditor who attaches goods of the company and gets them sold yes probably if the goods are not sold in vechukongla the debenture holder will take action in the meantime and the floating charge will get the priority sometimes it happens and the employees of the company as well as other preferential creditors probably in the event of winding up as per the waterfall arrangement if the floating charge is not crystallized அவ்வளவுதான் லிக்விடேட்டர் வந்து அது சார்ஜா ட்ரீட் பண்ணவே மாட்டாரு ஆர்டர்ல பார்ப்பாங்க ஸ்டாட்யூட்டரி டியூஸ் எக்ஸெட்ரா எக்ஸெட்ரா ஆர்டர்ல பார்க்கும்போது செக்யூர் கிரெடிட்டர்ஸ் ஃபுல்லா கம்ப்ளீட் ஆகுது. அதுக்கு பிறகு தான் எங்களுக்கு வரும். அது வரைக்கும் இட்ஸ் ட்ரீட்டட் அஸ் வாட் போஸ்ட்போன். யூ cannot say it's nil because நிர்திஷ்டமா தருவாங்க. Then supply of the goods to the company under a hire purchase agreement. Yes, obviously it happens. Hire or purchase அப்படின்னு வரும்போதெல்லாம் on terms that goods are remain the property of the seller until they are paid for in full. Okay. But hire purchase agreement is to be made before or after the issue of the debentures with floating charge. Yes, please make a note of that. If the debenture holder has created a floating charge, then the hire purchase agreement is will not be taken. First, the hire purchase agreement has to be executed, then only floating charge has to be taken. அப்படின்னா okay. அப்படின்னா priority wise பாத்தீங்கன்னா time wise chronological orderly he gets the priority. Okay. Actually looks like a very small and easy content, but there are so much in-depth knowledge is required, especially for these two headings. Especially when you go for crystallization, if you find any headings in the question paper related to crystallization, please give most attention. Each and every word has to be given importance. Okay. Usually this question will be raised. Are debenture holders secured creditors? General law says no if secured with a floating charge. But when you go for a deed, the debenture agreement and trustees agreement at all, usually they go for creating charges and priority or pari person. They'll be restricting the power. இது usually on the practical நடக்கிறது. But general law says no if created with the floating charge. Okay. So deemed notice on the date of registration. Restraint on the power to create charges with priority to floating charge. Yes, probably that there may be a restricting clause, probably the charge creation agreement letter ஆகும்போது an insertion will be there. Who has to give priority? Okay, sometimes pari passu clause will be there. Depending on ranking, you have to go. Okay, other things, this is all normal only. Okay. Invalidity of floating charge. Yes, please pay attention. If it is not crystallized, it remains afloat. Please try to adopt to this word afloat, which means what? Still floating, not fixed. Remains afloat. Afloat means what? Still floating only. Okay? Still floating. Remains floating. Okay? It's valid only against unsecured creditor. He's treated somewhat like unsecured creditor, except on eminent situation. Depends on court. Not only that, it remains invalid. Okay, please make a note if it is created above in the point. This 12 months, within 12 months. This date is where the charge is created. Which charge? Floating charge. Now is this date. Okay, how many months in between gap? 12 months. In the 12 months, create panindana within 12 months. Okay, so in the date, in the date create panindana within 12 months. Immediately preceding the commencement of the winding up proceedings, unless solvency is proved, please highlight. So you're in this date, and at this date, you're starting the winding up proceedings. Okay. Winding up proceedings are the liquidate wind up so liquidation is a process. Okay. So they'll check all the assets, what are the assets, who are the secured creditors, yaar can an amount pona, employees gonna etc. And the floating charge create create they'll go for dating it. Date within 12 months. This is a 12 months period. Any date lying in this period, they will consider this as not valid. But if the company says we are solvent, see, all company winding up insolvency winding need not be bankrupt. Okay, so on the case like the solvency is proved, then you will come back. Solvent insolvent. Okay. And still valid to the extent of the amount, any cash paid together with interest, 5%. Usually it will be notified by the government. Okay, that cash pay that will be valid. Okay. This is done. Charges compared with mortgage. Yes, often repeated question, especially CMA. Referring to the past year question papers, if you go for CA question papers, CA students will receive all these practical related questions. Case law A companies charge creating this charge and if you go for CMA students, especially this question is often repeated. Charge compared with mortgage. Charge or mortgage are same. Okay. Charge and mortgage is not same. General law. But as per the Companies Act, charge or the definition, it includes mortgage as an expressive definition. That's why here, as per the Companies Act, we say same. Okay. So, going for a colloquial definition of mortgage is the transfer of an interest in specific immovable. Yes, that's why it says mortgage. Specific immovable property. For what you are creating this one, doing this mortgage, securing the payment of money, advance or to be advanced, for current or future, by way of loan, an existing or future debt or the performance of an agreement which may give rise to what is pecuniary in terms of value. அதுக்காக மார்கேஜ் எதுக்கு பண்றீங்க? பணம் வாங்குறதுக்காக தான் பண்றீங்க. பணம் கொடுத்தாங்க. That's why we say pecuniary liability. Pecuniary means that's what you say as in terms of value of money. Okay. So we'll go for features. If you want to tabulate the results, if you go for features, I'll discuss with respect to creation, how it is created by the act of parties. If you go for charge, it is by the act of parties because law says you have to create. It can be by operation of law also. Okay. Registration, as per the Transfer of Property Act, you follow under the charge by the act of parties. Probably you have to go for registration by the operation of law. No registration required. Term, usually it's fixed. Here it may be perpetuity. Okay, long line. Transfer, it's a transfer of an interest in specific immovable property. Here we have already discussed, it's not a transfer, it's just only a right to receive payment out of a particular property. Transferring is a property purchase with value and with no notice of charge. I don't know how far you can understand this point. Let me explain it. Just check you have created a mortgage. Okay, please join with me here. You have created a mortgage. Company, the part of you all A is the owner of the assets. In need of finance, he has created a mortgage. Okay. He owns a building, he created a mortgage. And the year of payment for the loan is 10 years. 10 years vanduchu, he need not pay it. Usually 2 notices will be sent. First notice means what? We are just giving this intimation saying that so and so. It will be content will be differing. First notice will be sent saying that due date vanduchu, you pay pannum. We have to reply to the notice. It's like a legal notice. Okay. Manja notices சொல்லுவாங்க. Okay. That's very important notice. If you receive a notice from any authority like banks or any income tax or any authority, you have to reply to them. அப்படியே பார்த்துக்கலாம் விடக்கூடாது. That's very, very important case. So if you're receiving the notice, what you have to do here is you have to go for replying. Okay. If you're not replying, if you reply, see, bank வந்து அவ்வளவு ஹாஷாலாம் இருக்க மாட்டாங்க. Okay. They'll go for sittings and the debt recovery agents. We have heard of this terms DRE, debt recovery agents. உங்களால பே பண்ண முடியலன்னா they will come, they will have a meeting, they will ask உங்களால எவ்வளவு பே பண்ண முடியும், எவ்வளவு டைம் வேணும், கைண்டா பேசுவாங்க. ஓகே, கைண்டா தான் பேசி ஆகும். ஏன் தெரியுமா? ஏகப்பட்ட இஷ்யூஸ் போயிருக்கு. If you are not kind to that person, you see, he is a human being who has to be given respect. If you are not kind to him, அவன் ஏதாவது பண்ணிட்டான்னு வச்சுக்கோங்களேன், கேஸ் உங்க மேலதான். So that's why these agents are there called as debt recovery agents. They are actually properly trained and there is an exam. They have to finish that exam. First notice will be sent where they will be saying that date is over and it's the time for you to repay. You have to reply to the notice. If you are not replying, a second notice will be sent. What will be sent is, நீங்க reply பண்ணல, நாங்க வந்து என்னது, we'll take over. Usually this will happen. If it is a mortgage, what the second notice will mention, will take over, which means whose property is this now? The bank's property. Again, if it is a bank's property, we have to check whether there's a mortgage on title deed, mortgage on sale, அதெல்லாமே check பண்ணோம். Whereas if it is charge means the property will not be taken over. The property rights இருக்குல்ல, sale பண்ணோம், அதெல்லாமே block ஆயிடும். We cannot use the property. It will be sealed like. So you have to sell the property or you have to make the arrangement. You need not sell this property. You can make some other arrangement and give it. ஒரு செக்யூரிட்டி தான் கிரியேட் பண்ணாங்க. பட் வேற இந்த கேஸ் ஆஃப் மார்கேஜ் தட் வில் பி டேக்கன் ஓவர் த பேங்க் அண்ட் பேங்க் வில் செல் இட். அதான் பேங்க் ஜப்தி பண்ண ப்ராப்பர்ட்டிங்கிறது அதான். பேங்க் ஜப்தி பண்ணிட்டாங்கன்னா அவ்வளவுதான், உங்க ப்ராப்பர்ட்டியே இல்ல. This is what you call as transmission of law, operation of law. Is it okay? So let me take over. Validity against subsequent transfer is, yes, it's good. You can transfer, no issues. It is good against only notice. Notice means what? Giving practice. Personal liability unless excluded by express contract. So how far you are personally liable ங்கிறது contractல expressly mention பண்ணிருக்கணும். Here usually no personal liability is created. It's just a result of contract. If you go for comparing charge and pledge, see, mortgage is immovable. If you go for comparing pledge is movable. Somewhat the same content only. Charge includes what? Both mortgage and pledge. Whereas if you talk about pledge, it includes only. Okay. So when you talk about pledge, it's nothing but a bailment of personal property. Okay, it can be anything. It is nothing but delivery of goods that will be delivered. See, you know this pledging. The property this is not happening in the case of mortgage. Okay, this is security of debt or engagement or other obligation. Till the debt is repaid, the property will be that same only. Property in the sense I'm talking about movable property. It is redeemable on certain terms. Yes, it's payable and also. The title not being changed during the continuation of pledge. Yes, the title will not be changed. Property possession the money. Title not in. Title is ownership. Title is not changed. Okay, and it's an implied power on sale on default. In case you're not paying the debt, then the pawn broker, whoever it is, or sale on the builder. Whereas charge, already we have discussed, not a transfer of property, a right created in favor of one lender, which is who is having that immovable property of another, and the borrower as security for repayment, evidencing charge. Can please highlight this word, evidencing charge, because he's a borrower. Okay. This page, what we discussed on charge and mortgage, charge and pledge is a colloquial discussion box. Okay. It's not as per that colloquial discussion. Yes, this is quite important. Registration of charges. Charges to be registered follows from section 77. On the basis of section 77, it can be classified in three ways. Charges created within India or outside India. Charges created on his property, assets, or any of his undertakings, already we have discussed. Charges created can be on tangible, intangible, or otherwise, or situated in India or outside India. If it is this point is clear, now tell me what's the difference between third point and first point. Looks somewhat same. Where now? What's the difference between first and third point? If you are borrowing a loan from a bank outside India or a foreign bank, then you are creating a charge. This is the example. Okay, charge is created within India or outside India. But what happens here is the property is in India or outside India. Property வந்து foreignல இருக்கு. Property எங்க located foreign. You are creating charge in India. Yes, you can create. Property foreignல இருக்கு. நீங்க foreignல charge create பண்றீங்க. You have to register over here. இதான் interpretation. நம்ம படிக்கிறது act. This is what you call as interpretation. Property where is located. Property order location where it is located. Foreign, not in India. Charge created. Foreign, not in India. Okay. Should be registered as per the Companies Act. You still need more data to answer. This data is not sufficient. This is what is interpretations. You have to ask for the data. Else you cannot interpret. What data giving? Oh, company எந்த company மேம்? Company foreign company. அப்ப எதுக்கு மேம் டைம் வேஸ்ட் பண்ணிட்டு இருக்கீங்க? Company Indian company, branch foreign, foreign asset, charge created on foreign. You have to include here. Yes or no? You have to check how far the branch is controlled by the parent company. Check பண்ணணும். Because the complete control is taken by the Indian company. அல்லையா check பண்ணணும். எப்படி check பண்ணணும்? Go for referring the MOA. First class ல இருந்து start பண்ணணும். Okay. Okay, let me carry on. So, first line over, second line, it should be registered with the registrar in which form per CHG1 other than debenture on the. If you are issuing debentures, see, for debentures, you will not say borrowing loan, you will say issuing debentures. Okay. For issuing debentures, you have to follow CHG9 other than debentures means 1, CHG1 within how many days? Within 30 days. Of charge creation or even modification. ஏதாவது modify பண்ணிருக்கீங்க within 30 days. Company failing to register within 30 days from the date of creation of charge may register the same with register with additional fee. Okay. This is from also section 77. In case the charge is created before the commencement of this act, not 2013 act, Amendment Act of 2019 act. Within 300 days of such creation, you have to do it. Or if not registered within 300 days now, within 6 months from the date of commencement, after payment of additional fees, you can do it. Whereas if you go for the charges created after the commencement of this 2019 Act now, within how many days you have to go for paying on additional fees? Within 60 days. See, we say with additional fees, for how many days we have this additional fees? Within 60 days. Earlier it was within 300 days. See, first, you have created the charge at this point. Okay. Within 30 days, you have to file the form, whether it's CHG1 or 9, depends on debentures or other than debentures, 30 days. If not that, within this 300 days, you can still file it, but you have to pay an additional fee. This is for which rule? Created before charge creation. But if it is after charge creation, na 300 days wait பண்ண முடியாது. எவ்வளவு நாளுக்குள்ள? 60 days. If not done within 60 days, then you have to go for another further 60 days can be done, where you have to go for paying ad fees. We are using 3 types of fees. One is normal fees. Normal fees na the paid up capital வச்சு பண்றது. One is additional fees. The delay காக பண்ணோம் இல்லையா? Additional fees. Third one is ad valorem fees. Ad valorem na எவ்வளவு charge create பண்ணீங்க? To the value, at the value. To that fees will break up in percentage. Okay, so 3 types of fees will be paid only. So come over here. Period of delay up to 30 days of delay to 60 days from the date of creation. That is up to 60 days from the date of creation, 3 times of the normal fee. In the company, small company and 1% company. If it is other than these 2 companies, even a private company, we have to go for 6 times of the normal fee. More than 30 days and up to 90 days of delay, which means up to 120 days of delay, you have to go for normal fee. In addition to that, you have to go for an ad valorem fee. In the 90 days on the chin, where you got this 90 days? See here, under this category, already 160 is there. Already, sorry, first is 30 days full of original. Then we have this 60 days. So this becomes 90 days. Okay. And within further 60 days. So totally it adds up to 120. Actually, 90 plus 60 now it looks like 150. They are saying further 60. Yeah. So in the 60 order, in the 60 add panamode, it looks like 120. Okay, then first is 30. Okay, the 30 days kulla file பண்ணலனா 60. Okay, அப்போ ஃபர்ஸ்ட்ல இருந்து பார்க்கும்போது 90 யா? Okay, இந்த 60 ஓட ad valorem fees வரும் எப்போ? இன்னொரு 60 days குள்ள பண்ணீங்கன்னா அப்போ இந்த 60 இந்த 60 ஆட் பண்ணீங்கன்னா 120. ஓகே, ஒரு ரெண்டு வாட்டி ரீட் பண்ணி பாருங்க, அப்பதான் கொஞ்சம் ஓரளவுக்கு கன்ஃபியூஸ் ஆகி புரியும். So for small companies and 1% company, 3 times of the normal fee. Okay, we are talking about the normal fee 3 times. In addition to that, an ad valorem fee. எவ்வளோ? 0.023%. அவ்வளவுதான் நம்ம பே பண்ணிட்டு போவோம். 0.023% of secured amount to the maximum of 1 lakh. அவ்வளவுதான். What's the secured amount? Loan creation பண்ணிருப்பீங்களா? That will be in crores. அதுல வந்து 0.023%. Not 23%. It is 0.023%. Whereas if you go for other company, other than small companies and 1% company, it's 6 times of normal fee. Okay, already 6 times of normal fee வந்துச்சு. இன்னும் தானே delay பண்றீங்க. அப்ப ad valorem fee எவ்வளோ? 0.05% of the secured amount. Maximum it can go to. So whichever is lower. Okay. Okay, so these are not normal points. Illustration, I just leave up to you. We can just have a glance a bit later. For understanding பாருங்க. Okay, in case you're not comfortable, we'll go one to one. Okay. Shall I take over? Application for registration. Application for registration of charge by the charge holder. The creditor, the lender. This is the charge holder. Usually, register pannu. The company has to register. If the charge is not registered, what is the consequences? What is the impact? The charge holder will not be secured person. He will not be secured creditor. And charges register agla. அப்போ இது உங்க தலைவலியா என் தலைவலியா? As a company, நான் பண்ணனா you are the risk holder. நீங்க தான் ரிஸ்க் எடுக்கணும். அதனால என்ன பண்ணுவோம்னா, the charge holder is also given the rights to can go for applying for the registration. Case எப்போ? Where the company is not registering within 30 days. Okay. This happens in the case, especially in the case of financial institutions. Where the charge holder is a financial institution, this will come. Which form to file? CHG1 or CHG9, other than debentures and debenture. Registrar will send a notice to the company. Please highlight. If the financial institution is saying that the company has borrowed a loan of 30 crores and we are creating a charge for this 30 crores, registrar direct ஒத்துக்க மாட்டாரு. யார் borrow பண்ணவங்க? Who will be an aggrieved party? This is wrong. What do you call as aggrieved? Affected party. We will use this term for as aggrieved. aggrieved na affected party. Who is the affected party? In case in the financial institution கொடுக்கிற message, கொடுக்கிற information, தப்பான information இருந்தா who will be the affected party? Company and company's assets. Am I right? So, company should not become an aggrieved party. அதனால கம்பெனிக்கு வந்து ஒரு நோட்டீஸ் அனுப்பிச்சு இந்த மாதிரிலாம் டீடைல்ஸ் வந்து கரெக்டானு கேட்பாங்க. So, registrar will send a notice to the company. What the company has to give? All the details. ஆமானாச்சும் சொல்லணும் இல்ல இல்லனாச்சும் சொல்லணும். ஆமா சொல்லிட்டாங்கன்னா ஒன்றும் பிரச்சனை இல்ல, இல்லன்னு சொன்னாங்கன்னா பிரச்சனை இல்ல, ஒண்ணுமே சொல்லணும். ஓகே, கம்பெனி செக்ரட்டரி லீவு எவ்வளோ 5 மாசமா 6 மாசமா தெரியாது. Okay, so the company may either register itself or show sufficient cause for non-registration. On failure from the company side, registrar allows registration within 14 days from the date of notice. It's called as deemed accepted. என்ன சொல்லுவோம் அதுக்கு பேரு? The company is accepting it. ஏன்னா ஒண்ணுமே ரிப்ளை வரல அப்படின்னா ஓகே தான் அர்த்தம். So it's called as deemed acceptance. Who is paying the fees for in this case? Financial institution. But the financial institution can recover from the company. How much? Additional fee? In case additional fee and additional fee also can be taken. Okay. Continuing. Certificate of registration will be given. So the registrar, on checking all the details, will give a certificate of registration and it will be provided in form CHG2. In case they are modifying means, it will be given in charge form 3, CHG3. CMA inter students, you may highly expect this form numbers, not only in this topic, in almost every topic. The charge numbers மட்டும் கொஞ்சம் ஏன்னா database question வந்துச்சுன்னா கொஞ்சம் பாருங்க. Database question is you may expect this form numbers or you may expect penalties. கண்ணை மூடிட்டு இங்கி பங்கி வேணா போட்டுறாதீங்க. Okay, so sometimes 5 lakhs or sometimes 3 lakhs, it depends on. Nature, please highlight, it's called as a conclusive evidence. We have already discussed. Prima facie evidence irukku, conclusive evidence irukku. Once a certificate of registration is given, it becomes a conclusive only if the charge is registered. However, this does not prejudice any contract or obligation for the repayment of a money secured by a charge. இதனால அந்த மணின்னு சொல்லல, மணினால அந்த charge. Okay, money கொடுத்தனால அந்த charge. Because of lending, we have graded this such. Okay. நல்லா இருக்குல்ல இந்த number? 100 pages we have completed. Taking over, modification of charges. What do you mean by modification is you are altering the terms, you are altering the rate of interest, you are either increasing or decreasing the borrowings. I borrowed, as a company, I borrowed a loan for 10 crores. Now I am the repayment date is there, but suddenly because of some profit or some business thing, etc., undertaking a sale, something might have happened in our timeline. I might have repaid 2 crores. So what is the charge created now? Instead of 10, it is 2 crores, which means my borrowing is now decreased. Or already it was 10, due to the expansion of the business or buying some machinery or something, I have borrowed another 2 crores. It's again a modification, which means the borrowing is increased. Yes, you have to change it. Okay. Change or swap of security, sometimes it happens. நம்ம swapping பண்ணி போல அதனால இருக்கலாம். Extension of time for repayment, yes, usually it will happen mutually. Okay, sometimes what happens is நம்மளால repay பண்ண முடியல, it will go to the court of law. Court of law வந்து யூஸ்வலா யாரோட ஆங்கிள் பார்க்கணும்னா கம்பெனி ஆங்கிள் பார்க்கும். கம்பெனி ஆங்கிள் பார்த்துட்டு கேட்கும், ஏன் உன்னால பே பண்ண முடியல, this is the situation, give me time. And the time will be given. And if it is done by the court, it's called as operation of law. Because you are not deciding, the lender is not deciding. Who is deciding? Court is deciding. If the court decides, it automatically becomes operation of law. Okay. See, during this pandemic time and all, everything was operated by law now. I don't know how far you have heard this term, force majeure. கேள்விப்பட்டிருக்கீங்களா? Call this as force majeure. Force majeure means இப்படி சொன்னா புரியணும்னு அவசியம் இல்லை. Act of God. தெரியும்ல? Act of God. Due to natural calamity. During the pandemic time, it was completely not under everybody's control. The force majeure was given the whole of India. Any contract not performed means this is because of this pandemic period. We take it as force majeure, which means what? Not under our control. Okay, completely act of God. So you don't claim on anything. அப்போ எதுவுமே கிளைம் பண்ண முடியும். It becomes operation of law. இந்த ஃபோர்ஸ் மெஷர் எப்படி நம்ம சொன்னாங்க, எப்ப பேண்டமிக் வந்துச்சு? ஆக்சுவலா நம்ம சொல்றதே COVID-19 தானே. COVID-19 ஓகே, நமக்கு எப்போ வந்துச்சு? இந்தியால 20ல வருது. 20 March 17 or some date only the lockdown was announced on a sudden. But you know, when this force majeure was announced, 2019 November it was announced. அப்படின்னா அப்பவே தெரிஞ்சு போச்சு பேண்டமிக் ஆல்மோஸ்ட் சம்திங் இஸ் கோயிங் டு ஹேப்பன். ஸோ All the government officials and almost all the doctors, not only in India, almost all over the world, they were knowing this is going to be a very big pandemic, and the force measure அப்பவே announce பண்ணாங்க நவம்பர்ல. So in future, so probably the date was not mentioned. ஏன்னா லிமிட் இருக்குல்ல, மேக்ஸிமம் that was not mentioned. Force measure இனிமே ஏதாவது claim, loan close பண்ணீங்களா, etc. etc. don't claim, go for repayment, or don't claim for refund. அந்த மாதிரி கேட்டு சொல்லிட்டாங்க. Okay. So this is operation of law, right? It's not under your control, and court clearly says it's operation of law, or because of notification. And that time, what you're doing, you're extending the time period. And sometimes we mutually agree. என்னால pay பண்ண முடியாது, என்ன பண்ணுவேன்? Sometimes this happens. நீ பணம் கொடுத்தா ஒத்துக்கிறேன், என்னால pay பண்ண முடியாது, என்ன பண்ணுவேன்? நான் கோர்ட்டுக்கு போவேன், கோர்ட்டு போனா இருக்கிறது தானே தர போறேன், கரெக்டா? With acquiring property, if it is subject to charge, please check whether it follows from section 77. If even if the charge is already created, can be a new creation or modification, and if it is modified, go and check Sahasri Act, which is securitization and reconstruction of financial assets and enforcement of interest. Okay, if there is a non-performing assets, there are some institutions, what they do is they take this non-performing assets. எவ்வளவு non-performing assets? ஒரு 20,000 crores. Okay, அப்ப அது அப்படியே நீங்க கொடுத்துருங்க. நீங்க performing asset மாத்தி நீங்க liabilities close பண்ண மாதிரி. Some bad debts will be there. So, for example, this non-performing assets is 20,000 crores. There are some asset management company and institutions where they make this as security and sale in the market. ஆனா இவங்களுக்கு எவ்வளவு தெரியுமா தருவாங்க? 15,000 crores தான் தருவாங்க. See, I'm just giving a number. There is a big calculation behind it. 15,000 crores தான் தருவாங்க. As the bank side's balance sheet, இது வந்து என்னது? NPA இருந்து remove ஆயிடுச்சு. They are happy because they should not have a black marks. From the institution side, how much they are gaining? 5,000. Every the gainer, because they are making this a security and they are making it intangible and selling in the market. That's allowed. That's the act followed here called as Sahasri Act. Is quite a famous act called as securitization. What do you mean by securitization? Making it as security, securitization, and reconstruction of financial asset. And how you enforce this? Just verification of instrument is a copy of every instrument evidencing any creation or modification. Everything has to be filed with the registrar, and a copy of the instrument or deed shall be verified by a certificate issued by with the property. Probably outside India means, in India means it's quite simple. Directors, company secretary, or authorized person will be giving the certificate. But whereas it is in India, it has to be given by the company with seal, the director, company secretary, authorized officer of the charge holder, or other person who is interested in mortgage or charge, he has to give it. Okay. Satisfaction of charge. What do you mean by satisfaction? Closed. Okay. Follows from CHE 4. CHE 4 file பண்ணாதான் அது க்ளோஸ் ஆகுது, இல்லைன்னா அது காமிச்சிட்டே இருக்கும். Okay. Within 30 days, you have to pay the fees. And if there is a delay in filing the fees, 300 days, who has to do it? Company or charge holder? If there is a delay, you will be filing the fees along with the additional fees, and a show cause notice will be sent. What do you mean by show cause notice? SCN, show cause notice. SCN. If filed by the company, இப்போ செக் பண்ணி பாருங்க, கம்பெனி என்ன சொல்லுது? நாங்க கடன்லாம் திருப்பி கொடுத்துட்டோங்க, ஃபைல் பண்ணிடுறோங்க, ஃபைல் பண்ணி கொடுங்க. ரெஜிஸ்டர் சும்மா வருமா? Registrar will go and check with the lender. பணம்லாம் திருப்பி கொடுத்துட்டா சொல்றாங்க, திருப்பி கொடுத்துட்டாங்களா? So the registrar will check. So what the registrar will do is, it will issue a notice to whom? To the charge holder. And maximum, நம்ம முன்னாடி provisions பார்த்தோம்ல, within 40 days you have to reply. If you are not replying, it's considered as deemed dissatisfaction. Okay. And the registrar will intimate to the company the status. If there is a mandatory attachment saying there is a letter from the charge holder saying that a payment is closed enough, then a notice will not be sent. So no SCN in this. Okay. Directly it will be going for filing CRG. Okay. Power of registrar to make entries of satisfaction in absence of intimation from the company. If they are not giving any intimation, then probably the registrar will take steps and they'll go for closing the charge, satisfaction of the charge. So the registrar may on receipt of satisfactory evidence, it will go for checking. It will check for the evidences, whether it has been fully paid or satisfied, whole or part. What is the part of the property or undertaking that has been released for the charge? Then check okay. And part of the property or undertaking ceased or to form part of the company's property or what, and they may enter in the register of charges, the memorandum of satisfaction. Okay, this is normal. Certificate of registration of satisfaction of charges, CHG 5 form. Okay. Notice of charge, probably Yeah, please make a note of it. If any person wants to acquire the property or the assets or undertaking that has been created with the charge, he has to have a complete knowledge of charge from the charge date is registered, from the date of the charge is registered. நீங்க அந்த ப்ராப்பர்ட்டியை வாங்க போறீங்க, சார்ஜ் கிரியேட்டட் ஒரு கம்பெனி சேல் பண்ணுதுன்னா, we say that charge is created it becomes a public document இல்லையா? ஸோ ஒரு கம்பெனிட்ட இருந்து நீங்க ப்ராப்பர்ட்டி வாங்கும் போது it is understood you have taken to the knowledge. Okay, you remember this MOA and AOA is presumed in your knowledge னு பார்த்த ஞாபகம் இருக்கா? அந்த MOA ரீட் பண்ணும்போது அதுல இருக்கிறது உங்களுக்கு அப்படியே அண்டர்ஸ்டாண்ட் ஆன மாதிரி அர்த்தம். It becomes a public document நால. Likewise, if any charge is created on any property of the company and if you are buying that property na, it is understood that you know about the charge created on the property and you have bought it, which means you have the complete and deemed knowledge. Adana deemed knowledge. The court will not question. Check பண்ணி பாத்தீங்களா question பண்ணாது. நீங்க ஓகேன்னு சொல்லிட்டீங்கன்னா உங்களுக்கு அக்செப்டட்னு அப்பதான் கன்சிடர் பண்ணுங்க. Because it's a public document. Okay. That's why when buying any property, usually we'll go to the advocate for legal report. Check பண்ணுங்க. Register of charges, yes, this has to be maintained in the register of company's office. All the particulars of every company should be maintained in MCA portal. This is what we discussed, right? MCA master data of your it is called as a deemed register and is open for inspection. You can pay some 300 rupees cost. Pay பண்ணி நீங்க download பண்ணிக்கலாம். Also, you can get it as a physical mode in the register of source. Now it's not there because we have this MCA 21. So now it's not there. And you have to have all the details of creation, modification, and satisfaction and all. And intimation of appointment or receiver or manager in case you are going for freezing the assets and all. அப்ப என்ன பண்ணனும் இந்த மாதிரி ஒரு receiver appoint பண்றீங்கல்ல, you have to file a charge called as form 6 within 30 days from the date of appointment, and there is a notice to be given to the company and also the register, and the registrar should register. Please highlight. If it is a floating charge, only if the registrar registers, then the floating charge will be crystallized. Else not. Crystallize ஆகலன்னா அது unsecured தான். Okay? And the particulars of the receipt are normal part. So notice of the company and the registrar will take for it. Company's register of charges. It will be maintaining a register book in the format. This is actually, we call it as form number, but in the format money. Okay? SCHG form 7. The data, the entries has to be updated. What are the things you are doing in creation, modification, everything has to be updated. Updated on every கண்டுபிடிக்கிறது. It should be properly authenticated. இப்போ நம்ம ரெக்கார்ட் பாக்குறோம்ல, MCA மாஸ்டர் டேட்டா ஓபன் பண்ணா அதெல்லாமே வேலிட் தான் நினைக்கிறோம் இல்லையா? அது எப்படி நினைக்கிறீங்க? Because it should be authenticated. Okay. Who can authenticate? Director, secretary. If there is no director or any director, there should be an authorized person. Okay. It should be preserved permanently, yes, often repeated. Some records will be preserved for 8 years. Some record has to be preserved permanently. This is the charges. Register of charges has to be preserved permanently. Not only the record, the instrument creating a charge or modification also. And usually when we talk about the instrument, 8 years plus the copy of the instrument has to be maintained. Okay. Even though you have satisfied the charge, you have to maintain it for 8 years. What are the contents? You just have a look. நம்ம பார்த்தோம் இல்லையா, the contents எல்லாமே இருக்கும் பாருங்க. Serial number, charge ID, charge ID, date of creation, date of registration of charge, short description, period and amount. Actually, short description இப்போ remove பண்ணிட்டு இருக்காங்க. Period and amount secured by the charge, name and address of the charge, particulars of the terms and conditions. Actually, this is the record maintained by the company. அதனால இவ்வளவு details இருக்கும். நம்ம master dataல பார்க்கறதுல இவ்வளவு details வராது. The complete details will not be there. So usually we need to have this fifth one also. ஏன்னா the company ஓட record நால. Okay. Date of modification, date of registration of modification, particulars, date of satisfaction and registration, facts, and date of continuation of delay. If it is delayed, satisfaction date once is delayed. So definitely you have to give the facts and date of continuation and reasons for delay. Okay, all this has to be considered. Inspection of charges, yes, any member or creditor without fees because they have the right. In a download company, they can register creditor, அவர் கொடுத்த பணம், so he can go for inspection. Other persons, no, the fee will be levied and there is a reasonable restriction, probably as per the AOA follow. ஏன்னா எல்லாருமே வந்து பார்த்தா நல்லா இருக்காது இல்லையா? So reasonable restrictions will be there. What do you mean by reasonable restriction? Probably as a creditor, I am trying to lend a loan. அப்ப நான் கேட்பேன், ஏன்னா எனக்கு தெரிஞ்சதானே நான் கொடுப்பேன் லோன் உங்களுக்கு. ஸோ அந்த டைம்ல நான் liquidator or any other creditor can take into account the unregistered charges. Okay. Consequences of non-registration. Request you to go for this case law ONGC Limited versus official liquidators of Ambika Mills Limited. This is a case created if the is related to consequences if the charge is not registered. Okay. If the charge is not registered, it's considered as void against the liquidator or the creditor. Which means what? பணம் பத்தல அந்த டைம்ல it becomes void. பணம் இருந்துச்சுன்னா ஒன்றும் பிரச்சனை இல்லை. Okay. So I can just have a look on this. Punishment for contravention. Yes, if you're not following the provisions of the chapter 6, then company will be levied a penalty of 5 lakh, officer with a fine of 50,000. Willfully furnishing false or incorrect information or knowingly suppressing. What do you mean by suppressing? தெரிஞ்சு details மாத்தி கொடுக்கிறது. Any material information, then it attracts penalty. Quite famous penalty. 447. கம்பி எண்ணணும் 4 4 7 8. Okay. Particulars of charge. Yes, already discussed. Okay. It's already discussed. You can just go through later. Rectification by central government in register of charges. Yes, power is delegated to the regional director. He, on satisfaction, in case he feels like some details are omitted or is related to misstatement regarding the previous filing or entry made, definitely they will check whether it's accidental or due to inadvertence or the sufficient cause is there. இல்லைன்னா penalty levy பண்ணுவாங்க ஏன்னா central government control போயிடுது. Okay. So now is okay. Section 87 deals with CHG 8, where you can apply to the central government for rectification of the errors that relating to time of extension or whatever it is, and it should be made within 300 days. Okay, we have not we have to file the form within 300 days. You know, 300 days mela poichna, you can go for applying in this way. Okay, so you can refer this case. Procedure for registration. Usually, when we do anything, something not stated in the Companies Act, a board meeting will be held. The board of directors will decide whether it can be done or not. Sometimes it may be unanimously decided. What do you mean by unanimous? Like togetherness. Everybody says okay, now you say unanimous. Okay. Sometimes unanimous, sometimes they go for majority. Most of the time majority now. Sometimes unanimously decided. Probably if it is related to any major things, access in the coordinate resolution pass பண்ணணும், special resolution pass பண்ணணும். It means what? You have to go for arranging a AGM or EGM. Okay. So authorization of the board is needed to ensure whether special resolution is required. In which case, either you are going to sell or lease or dispose undertakings in favor of financial institution, banks or lenders on agreement. This is not applicable for private company. And also you go and follow AOA. And if the borrowings are in limits, you have to check. See, this is all checkpoints. Okay. Then the board resolution will be passed, and the authorized director or the managing director will be executing, signing, filing, and registering the charge, register the charge documents. And if it is a special resolution, see, it is related to sale or dispose or lease of the undertaking. So definitely you need a special resolution. In that you need to file a form called as MGT 14 for that. It will include all the explanation parts of it. Okay. Then E-form for charge creation. Yes, we know. Just highlight 1 for other than debentures. 9 for debenture within 30 days. Recently, an order is passed by the government. If it is not filed, then you have to go for form number 28. Okay. இதெல்லாமே default list எடுக்கிறதுக்காக பண்ணாங்க. And CHG 4 on satisfaction within 30 days, you have to do with CHG 8, you can apply to central government for rectification or extension of time. And we are already discussing with respect to the SSI record. So nature of the SSI record is to create a public database. You need to know all the encumbrances related to properties because we are talking about the immovable property here. So immovable properties to secure loans and advances. So related to banks, financial institutions, and what are the transactions related to surplus. Okay. It's a mandatory and additional compliance form. Now, master data at the end of that, we found that the link directly linking to SSI records. Okay. So that can be done. And particulars of creation, modification. This is the normal point. Immovable property means what are the things, the details you have to give. Hypothecation means on what basis. You know hypothecation, right? You're buying a plant and machinery. என்ன பண்ணுவோம்னா நம்ம மார்கேஜ்னா இட்ஸ் யோர் ப்ராப்பர்ட்டி ஆர் மார்கேஜிங் பிளெஜிங்னா யோர் ப்ராப்பர்ட்டி ஆர் பிளெஜிங் பட் ஹைபோதிகேஷன் இஸ் you're going to buy the plant and machinery, a part of the amount will be provided by the lender to the direct supplier. Mission உங்க கையில வரும் ஆனா உங்க பேர்ல இருக்காது. That's what hypothecation. In case in future you're going to sell this machinery, then obviously what you have to do is you have to go cancel the hypothecation and you can sell it. Okay. So stocks, debts, இதெல்லாமே cover ஆயிடும். Then intangible assets, any under construction residential or commercial points that also will be taken forever. இதெல்லாமே வந்து immovable ல கவர் ஆகுது. அதனால தான் we are going for central registry, side of us. Okay.